Robert McCall, Denzel Washington, wakes up in time to work at the home store. McCall suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, which causes her to spend her time doing everything from cooking to baking. He was respected and popular among his colleagues who knew nothing about his past. Today, he's having dinner with his workout partner and colleague Ralphie, Johnny Scottis. He asks Ralph about his lunch and is satisfied with his answer until Ralph eats his sandwich and McCall hears a crunch and sees that it is a sandwich. McCall reminds Ralphie that he needs to give up the burden of being a security guard. He also warned him to seek gold and perfection. Most nights, McCall can't get any rest, so he goes somewhere nearby, reads a book, and drinks tea at a restaurant every day. He is currently reading The Old Man and the Sea. Robert is sent to be talking to a young prostitute, Chloe Grace Moritz, who occasionally asks the men in the book if they have fish. She couldn't speak. The woman finished her cake and got into the taxi. At work, several of McCall's younger colleagues asked him what he did before working with them. He joked that he was Gladys Knight's pip and played a little trick on them. That night, he went back to the burger restaurant and met a similar girl. She saw him reading another book. Robert told him what the other man had done. While they were talking, a limousine pulled up in front of the burger restaurant. She then, at that point, gets a call from her pimp, Slavy, David Munier. He tells her she has a client, which is the man in the limo. She tells her pimp she would rather not work with this client since she finds him sickening. However, her pimp looks her sentiments and advises her to go to work. The vehicle entryway opens to uncover a fat man hanging tight for the young lady. Hesitantly, she heads outside and goes along with him. The following evening, McCall tracks down the young lady at the cafe, yet she has an injury all over. He gives her a donut that he got from work. Apprehensive, searching for a peaceful voice, she chooses to break their typical convention and sits with him at his table. She presents herself as Terry, in spite of the fact that her genuine name is Alina. She hands McCall a compact disc that she recorded of herself singing, wanting to hear his point of view later. She suitably finds that Robert has been as of late windowed, nevertheless feels lost without his significant other. Robert realized this was true and found his love of reading alive thanks to the reading challenge that his priority had failed to achieve. The two of them walked in and out of the cafe chatting. As they set out on a different night, a car approaches them. This is Slavy and his driver Tevi, Alex Vidov. Slavy got out of the car and hit Alina. McCall considered intervening, but Alina stopped. Robert saw Tevi holding the gun. Slavy walked up to McCall, gave him a business card, and told him he had chosen another young woman. McCall had not seen Alina for several days and nights at the time. It was obvious that she was under a lot of stress. One night, he learned from the restaurant manager that Alina had been admitted to intensive care after being severely beaten. McCall went there and noticed that Alina's face was still swollen and changed. He also saw her with another young woman, Mandy, Haley Bennett, who was crying. Robert did not enter the room, but was hidden by the girls who saw him from a good angle. Mandy then walks past McCall, crying. She drank some espresso, but she filled the glass. McCall comforts her and, realizing that Alina is a friend, learns some information about her. Mandy saw Slavy beat Alina and Alina hit her back. Slavy went out and formed a body with him. Mandy said Slavy was still touching the young woman's face and holding her close as a warning not to hurt her. He treats his young daughters like objects and nothing more. McCall evaluated the situation for several days before finally deciding to take action. Using the card Slawy gave him, McCall went to the restaurant where Slawy and his men were hanging out. McCall entered the office room of the restaurant with an envelope containing $9,800 and handed it to Alina. The crowd jeered McCall, and Slawy discovered that he had taken so much money from young Alina that $9,800 would give him a month's worth of money. He then scoffed at McCall's advice and said he should go home and masturbate more often. Then maybe Alina's value will decrease and she may decide to leave him. McCall took the money and began to leave. He almost left, but then chose to stay and block the entrance. After discreetly warning the men and all the weapons they had, he set the time on his watch and went straight in. One of the men pointed a gun at McCall, but McCall grabbed the man's arm and told him to shoot Slawy in the throat. He then fired a glass bullet into the man's eye. He slashed the third man with his own knife, then grabbed the brewing tool and stabbed Turvey multiple times until it caught under his chin and wiped him clean. McCall went to Slawy and told him what his body had become and that he would soon die. Slawy, "Who are you?" asked. McCall didn't answer, instead counting the seconds before Slawy passed out and bit the dust. After apologizing, Robert went home, groomed himself, and this time slept through the night. After the murder, a Russian gangster named Teddy Martin Sokas comes to Boston to investigate what happened. Slavy and his people. He joins a group of police officers to gather clues. So far, everything has been focused on uniting the opposition. At work, McCall notices Ralphie isn't there. The principal informed him that Ralphie had stopped. McCall visits the restaurant owned by Ralphie's mother. After the fire, Ralphie helps him, apparently unintentionally. Meanwhile, Teddy is brought into a dysfunctional office by an unsuspecting police officer, followed by an expert on the edge played by David Harbour, John Rooney, played by Sean Fitzgibbon. Executioner. John hurt Teddy and all the Russians. So Teddy hits John with the ash and gets right to the point and kills the bandit John. Teddy continued to hit John in the face until John lost consciousness. Two dirty cops, Remar, played by Mike O'Day, and Peterson, played by James Wilcox, are dining at Ralphie's mother's restaurant. They extorted safe money from him, promising that if the cash was not paid on time within a week, another accident would occur. McCall saw them outside the restaurant and said he wanted to report inappropriate behavior. They forgot about him and told him to call 911 until he could call someone from his own phone. McCall shot a video of himself shooting a representative at a grocery store while blackmailing them, during which time they confessed to a fire of the restaurant. McCall told them they could return the money or the video would cause mayhem in the city parking lot. The officer aimed his gun, but McCall quickly shot them both. They agreed and sent the money back to Ralphie's mother. A short time later, when Ralphie appeared to law enforcement and completed the evaluation, McCall was seen playing basketball with a coworker. Back to work plot, Robert visits a worker, Jenny, Anastasia Moses, to get a discount and sees her, commandeering an ordinary quiet man like an armed robber. McCall walked slowly towards him and handed him the money. The criminal also demanded Jenny's ring, which belonged to her mother. This caused him a lot of pain. McCall noticed little things about the man, like his tattoos and clothing. He decided to do it, but not because kids might come into the store and get hurt. McCall followed the man outside and carefully looked at the license plate of the car he was in. Police told them it was part of a robbery spree by the same man. McCall then pulled the demo hammer from the shelf. The next day, Jenny finds her ring in the safe and McCall puts it back on the counter after cleaning the hammer. Meanwhile, Teddy notices Alina missing from Slavy's young wife and asks Mandy, who says she doesn't know her well. He later visits Mandy and threatens her to expose her lies. He asked her to talk about the night she visited Alina in the hospital, and Alina mentioned a man she didn't know, but was kind as she stopped and asked questions about Alina, even though she didn't know who Alina was. Teddy then strangled her to death, because you lied to him. According to new information, Teddy found video evidence of McCall entering the restaurant, but no one left. Claiming to be a detective, he visited McCall at his home, and McCall immediately recognized him but answered his questions with canned answers. Teddy left feeling that McCall was stronger than he thought. Teddy finds out more about McCall, but there is no scent or evidence behind the information they can find about him. It contributes to Slowey's death. Teddy thought everything they knew about McCall was just made-up statistics. He, Pullen, and the other bad guys were standing outside the car when the others entered the restaurant where McCall was eating. McCall immediately made peace with the man and asked if they were expecting someone else. The man took out his gun and walked towards him. The truck pulled up in front of the cafe and Teddy's view of the truck went dark. McCall causes chaos in the town with his book, then kills her by slamming her head on the table and breaking her neck. He then inserted the knife into the socket to turn off the light. He leaves the burger joint and uses his PDA to take a picture of Teddy and his men in the car before leaving. Once they learn his whereabouts, the team followed McCall to his home. When the criminals entered his house, he heated the honey to prevent the armed attacker from harming himself. They break into McCall's house, but find McCall watching with a hidden camera in another room. McCall finds evidence in the attic that he is out of town, but Teddy does not know this and thinks he is watching. McCall is out of town, but only to visit his life with Brian and Susan Plummer, Bill Pullman, and Melissa Leo. They clearly have a history of working together. McCall gets some information about Teddy and his employer. When the party reveals its information, Brian and McCall discuss McCall's car accident, which leads everyone, including Brian and Susan, to confirm that Robert is dead. Brian breaks it down and Susan realizes Robert isn't really dead. When he returns, he tells McCall that the man he killed was important to the Russian mafia led by Vladimir Pushkin, Vladimir Kulich. Teddy's real name is Nikolai, the man Pushkin sends when something needs to be governed by a clear design. Remar and Peterson received financial support from Pushkin but were seen dying days earlier with their ovaries removed and stuffed into their mouths. Susan warns McCall that the men won't stop until he and everyone he cares about are dead. Robert leaves the next morning after convincing Susan to agree to become the person she was before in order to finish what he started. McCall found the Chief Justice and captured him in his car, which he rigged with a hose from a pipe. He was honestly inspired, and he better give important information about Pushkin's role. Otherwise, he would send him to the car. Finally getting to the point, McCall is taken to a storage room where the Russians are counting and keeping large beds full of cash, apparently real money. McCall is very generous to criminals who turn themselves in. He put them in a room with all the money for the police to find. He then dismissed all the experts and gave them gifts of Pushkin's money. He reached directly into an ad and told her to submit a report. He then convinces Candide once again to be a good cop, informing him that he knows Candide has some work left in case he feels the need to disturb Pushkin at any time. When the police show up, they find the culprit and the money and arrest the man. McCall went to Forthright's safe deposit box and found some cash, a visa, and more information, including Pushkin's role and information about the police, agents, legislators, etc. He found a USB stick that exposed everyone involved in Pushkin's finances, including. McCall sends the data namelessly to the analyst responsible for the stockroom bust. McCall likewise finds one of Pushkin's oil big haulers and explodes it alongside a few trucks and a stockroom. Teddy hires a group of hitmen from Russia to help him kill McCall. While I was having dinner with the team leader went to the toilet. Moments later, McCall sat in front of Teddy, leaving the fearsome shadow of the leader behind, and told Teddy he would never come back. The two talk, and Robert tells Teddy that he knows exactly who Teddy is, giving him time to drop everything before Robert completes his mission and brings down the entire organization. Teddy declines the offer and proudly tells Robert that he never made a difference to her. Robert left the table, saying he would act without hesitation. Teddy received a phone call from Pushkin but ignored it. Teddy discovers the nature of Robert's work with Ralphie and thinks he has finally found McCall's peak. Two of Teddy's men arrest Ralphie, Jenny, and other family members at the store, and Blunt confronts Teddy and threatens to kill him unless he crashes the truck. Criminals track your phone and guess your appearance. When you fail to show up to the meeting place near the gas station, explosion, mobsters at the mall plan to kill one of McCall's employees. The radio suddenly started playing music. One of the gang directs Ralphie to find the place and is shot by McCall. McCall spoke Russian and searched for other prisoners among the murdered prisoners. Teddy and his recruits come to the family store. They try to track down McCall, but were shot, one by one as he hid around the warehouse and set up a tracking device at the scene. He surrounded one of them with a security fence and cut the neck of the other. He attacked the biggest troublemaker and wounded him until he